right. Well, good afternoon, TRTA members, friends, and supporters. We're so happy that you've joined us for our Thursday afternoon briefing. I have to be honest, I have now lost track of what week number this is in the Texas legislative process, but we are well underway. Well underway. So I'm going to make sure I've flipped over to the comments, and I see the first comment of the day is my good friend Steve Caruso. Thank you, Mr. Caruso, for wishing me a happy birthday. Some of you know yesterday was my birthday. And so for all of our viewers, I just want to say thank you so much for the kind messages and Facebook comments. I'm going to be very honest with y'all. I do not use Facebook as often as other people. And I have to be very transparent in this idea of how do I properly respond to all of the Facebook messages? Because what I want to do is I want to go into every Facebook message who sent me a birthday wish and say, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you sent this message. I haven't heard from you for some time. It's great to catch up. And other people who do Facebook more than me say, no, what you really need to do is just go in there and post, thank you. And so yesterday I did that. And if any of you are interested in checking out my personal Facebook page, you will see that I put a picture there of my youngest son, Ryan, who was at a track meet yesterday. So his first track meet. And so anyway, you'll get a little bit of a picture of what I am very proud of. Of course, that is my son, all my kiddos. And so anyway, we had a great time yesterday. And so thank you for all those birthday wishes. And I'm just checking out all of the amazing messages from our friends. I love this job. And I love being a part of this organization because of the amazing people that are in our association. All of these folks, I'm looking at kind of the side of my screen. I see these comments popping up. And I just want to tell you all, you're the best part of this job. Working for you, the TRTA membership and all of our supporters and our friends is absolutely the very best part of this job. So thank you so much. I want to say also a special greeting to one of our Capitol team members, Larry Yawn, I know is watching. He is a little under the weather today. I just want to tell you, Larry, we're definitely with you. Thanks for being at the Capitol most of this week. I know you'll be back at it, and hopefully this will be a good show, and you'll be able to say, you were proud of this one. So let's start there. Last week, I started communicating with our TRTA followers and our members about how we how we as an organization approach advocacy. And one of the things that we do, like a lot of other organizations, is we try to bring our members to the Capitol so that we can meet one-on-one with our state elected officials early in this process. And it takes a lot of effort from a whole bunch of people. Primarily, it takes the work of our state legislative coordinator, Mary Widmeyer, who has been doing just an amazing job organizing all of the outreach, bringing in all of our legislative committee chairs from around the state. And this week, we had Floyd Broussard from District 5. We had Wayne Mason from District 7. We had Don East Ray from District 16. We had Ricky Chandler from District 18, Steve Evans from District 19, Dora Cackley from District 1, and Eric McKnight from District 17. And I will tell you, they did awesome. They did such a great job representing our TRTA membership. Really very proud of the work they did. And they had the distinct privilege of being in the Capitol when the Sweetwater JCs show up to do Sweetwater Festival Awareness Day week, where they bring all of these rattlesnakes to the Texas Capitol, and they take them to the open air rotunda in the extension on the second level, which is the bottom level, and they have these rattlesnakes everywhere. And I was definitely not brave enough to go and pet the rattlesnakes, but I think there's a rumor that Eric or Steve or somebody went and said hello, a special hello to those rattlesnakes. If they're watching, I don't know if there's any real truth to that rumor or not, but I know one thing: it wasn't me. All right, so y'all are doing great. And Sherry Hubbard, you're so funny. Another year older, and you don't look it. You get the comment of the day. So anyway, thank you so much again, y'all. I appreciate it. We're having a lot of fun working for y'all on these various issues. Of course, our major issue is to help retirees win a cost of living raise. And there's a little bit of procedural news that is going on. And I forgot to turn my phone off, y'all. How rude. So I'm going to turn that on do not disturb mode somehow. Oh, well, it's live television. So if it goes off again, I'm just going to try to ignore it. All right. So procedural news for this week, as we started talking about last week, committees have been named. And now in one of those committees that we really follow, because it is a finance and funding committee, it's the budget committee in the House. We have the House Appropriations Committee breaking out their work groups by article. And so in the Texas budget process, there's Article 3, which deals with all of the funding related to our public education system. And the list of the Article 3 members, first of all, the chair, and congratulations to what is absolutely one of our very best friends in the Texas legislature, Gary Van Dever. Gary, if you are from Gary's area, you know that not only is he an amazing person to get to know and talk to and work with, he's a retired teacher, y'all. He is a retired TRS member, served in our public schools, is a real champion for all things public education. He's a superintendent, just a great guy. I'm really very proud to see my friend Gary Van Dever as the chair of the Article 3 Appropriations, and just a great person. He's got a great staff. Trish Conrad works in his chief of staff in his office. We're just very close to that group, and so I wish him the very best. He's going to have a challenging session with so many opportunities to do great things, and we do wish him the very best. Vice chair is Barbara Gervin Hawkins, another very strong supporter, TRTA member, and someone who works well with us. She's from the San Antonio area. Just again, couldn't be happier about the leadership for Article 3. Outside of the things that they may try to help TRS retirees with, these are just really good folks. Couple new faces on the Article 3 appropriations. We've got Representative John Bryant, who might be a new face on this Article 3 Appropriations Committee from the last session, but has of course been around Texas government for many years, and is an experienced hand, serving in many roles in elected office. And I look forward to getting to know him a little bit better. My state rep, Carrie Isaac, is on this article as well. And then you've got folks that we've worked with for a long time: Armando Martinez, Jeannie Morrison. We do have Lena Ortega on here as well. Carl Tepper, who is a new member of the legislature, and someone that met with our team this week and had excellent reports out of that office. And then Representative Kronda Thamesh, also rounding out the Article 3 Appropriations group. And so, Roy, you can come back to me. If these folks are your state rep, you all have now an extra opportunity to build a relationship and a rapport with these folks and communicate the needs that retirees have. This is going to be the House. Article 3 is the Education Committee dealing with the funding of various activities related to TRS and all things education. And so we're going to communicate with these folks. Of course, we work with every member of the legislature, but this is going to be one of those committees that is going to have a little bit more going on. And so I would encourage you to continue to build those relationships. And I'm going to talk a little bit more. I know we've spent some time in previous discussions during these updates about the relationship aspect of this, but I'm going to kind of use that and close out the overview. Today's objective is really to talk about the work that we are doing and some of the information that you are hearing about the various ways that might be used to help TRS retirees in this coming session. And we're gonna cover a little bit of the waterfront. Certainly is not any stretch of the imagination to say that the areas that we're going to talk about represent the totality of things that could be done to help retirees. But these are sort of the high level approaches that we have seen in either the last couple of sessions or that we hear talked about or that we're asking for. And so I wanted to provide a little background, a little information, and hopefully this will be something that you can use as you're talking to your elected officials about the ways that retirees can be helped. And so let's start off by saying a thank you to Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who this week announced his bills, priority bills for the Senate. And in those priority bills was Senate Bill 10. In Senate Bill 10, right now, and I don't have the language on that. It was introduced officially today. I didn't see it, but the Senate Bill 10 caption says to provide retirees, TRS retirees, with a 13th check. And there are a few things that I have heard reaction from our members on in that particular issue. But I wanted to sort of put some things in perspective and talk about them. And as I said to some folks earlier in this process, if you're made a priority, then we're grateful for that. And Senate Bill 10 is say this a different way. It's a low bill number and a high priority. So something that has a very low bill number is far more likely to get through the legislative process and be used to help its intended target than perhaps a piece of legislation that may have a very high bill number and for some reason doesn't actually move all the way through the process. And so I am grateful, as is the leadership of TRTA, that we are again a Senate priority. And so I wanted to say that that is very important. When you have 140 days, excuse me, and time is always of the essence, knowing that you start that process in a priority position is a good thing. And so the other part I would say about that 13th check concept is we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about why some people look at that and say that's a favorable thing to do. And again, TRTA's position, our official position is that we would like to see retirees receive a cost of living adjustment during this session. And so what that means is that we're going to work through this process. You start off in one place and you work through this process to get to where you ultimately all can agree. And so that's what we're working to do. But as I talk about that, I do want to point out that in the budget that has already been introduced, we see some additional language that helps frame some more of this discussion. Roy, I think I would like to show, again, Rider 21 out of the Texas budget language in Senate Bill 1. So what this language says in this, the budget has a lot of parts to it. And some of the parts are funding components, direct conversations about funding various activities like funding the pension trust fund and doing some other things. But then there are other aspects of the budget where they put intent language into the budget and saying, hey, you know what? We're going to go through this process during the 140-day legislative session, and we've got some things that we would like to do. So let's put some language here as a placeholder so that we can come back to this during that time frame and ultimately work towards some kind of action step for what we want to do. And so as you see in this budget intent rider, it says it's the intent of the legislature that a benefit enhancement be provided to TRS retirees contingent on the determination that the pension trust fund is considered actuarially sound pursuant to Government Code 824.2031. All right, Roy. So this is one of those times where I probably should have had a water, but that's my own fault, y'all. Sorry about that. That intent rider language talks to us, and what it says to me is TRS retirees, we want to help you. We're not sure exactly what that help may look like just yet, but we're wanting to do something for you. And when I testified in the Senate Finance Committee a week ago, I said there were two parts of my testimony that were the most important. The first one was we're grateful for the funding for the teacher retirement system and the work that has already been done for TRS in this session, because the legislature has committed a lot of money in the budget to ensuring that the trust fund is going to be funded. But they also put that intent rider in there that said we're working towards a benefit enhancement. And so the other part of my testimony that I really emphasized was that we want a seat at the table. We want to be able to talk with decision makers about how retirees are being hit and hurt by inflation, and why a cost of living raise is a better option for almost all of our retirees than perhaps another form of benefit enhancement. And so I've been assured by many of our friends in the legislature that those conversations are welcome, that they're intent on having them. There is a tremendous amount of support in the legislature for helping retired teachers. I also want to tell y'all, as I've said before, there are so many more voices right now in the legislature than I've probably ever seen. In large part because there is a record amount of available dollars for people and entities and groups and stakeholders to come and say, hey, I would like some of that help. I want some of those dollars for whatever it is that those groups are asking for. And I'm sure they are all legitimate and good things to occur. But even if you took and did everything, you would run out of money eventually. And so what we have to focus on in with our association's work is that we're a priority. We're grateful for it. We have been identified in the budget as a group that folks want to have an ongoing conversation with. And there's a lot of support for retired teachers in the legislature. I cannot predict, and I certainly cannot guarantee what will happen at the end of this process. And I stopped guessing about what the legislature may do a long time ago. This process is one that has to run the full course, which means that we are definitely in a marathon here, y'all, not a sprint. And so we cannot look at one aspect of this and just say, well, that doesn't necessarily say what I want to say right now. Well, it may not. But for our association, we're going to take a lot of the good and we're going to build from that and try to make it what we would like to see happen. And so that's what we're doing. And so I want to talk a little bit about what the COLA would mean, what a 13th check is, and the other conversations around something like a supplemental payment. And so that is the focus of today's conversation. And I hope that you will be able to take some of this information and share it with the folks in your local chapter, or if you're an at-large member, share it with your fellow retirees and maybe join one of our local chapters, or just share with your elected official. So let's talk about a cost of living raise. As most people know, TRS retirees do not have in their base retirement benefit a guaranteed cost of living increase from year to year. Many state pension trust funds have built into their retirement benefits a cost of living increase. And that's good. Some of those cost of living adjustments are what we call simple COLAs. Some of those cost of living adjustments are what we call compounded COLAs. And many of them occur year after year after year. And while that's good, because it helps retirees deal with the pressure of inflation, the downside is that most states have not adequately funded their retirement plans to cover the costs of those ongoing increases. And so that's why when you turn on the news and you hear somebody talking about a state with a public trust fund, pension fund, that their retired school employees or retired state employees are counting on is so woefully underfunded. It in many ways is because the benefits that are being promised are not bringing in enough resources to be able to pay for them. And so the downside risk is that all of the people that are counting on that retirement system to be there for them when they retire someday is at risk because of an imbalance between the benefits that are being promised and the resources coming in to pay for those. And in many instances, those imbalances are self-inflicted, in that a state legislature in whatever state may have developed that benefit structure, but didn't come up with a mechanism to actually pay for it over time, or they simply didn't put enough money in the trust fund over those years to guarantee those promised benefits. But we can also look at other retirement programs and see that some kind of cost of living adjustment is an important part of a retiree's ability to pay for goods and services throughout their retirement years. Probably the most known is the Social Security Trust Fund. And so when the federal government talks about providing retirees under the Social Security system with a cost of living increase, they are doing it to help those retirees in the coming year deal with the impact of inflation. And so, as all of our viewers know, most or nearly all of our TRS retirees in Texas cannot count on Social Security increases to be there for them to help offset inflation. And so, if you're a TRS retiree in Texas and you retired August 31st, 2004 or before, the last actual raise that you had to your base retirement benefits occurred in 2013 when the legislature passed the last 3% raise, and it was implemented in 2013, and it was capped at $100 per month. And it helped all of those folks who retired August 31st, 2004 and before. And so that was 10 years ago. So the last raise that anyone has received in Texas to their base retirement benefits with the TRS system is 10 years ago. And if you retired September 1st, 2004 and after, you've never had a raise. And our message to the legislature is that, this can be managed in several different ways. But if you look at a pensioner who's either been retired over the last 10 years with no cost of living adjustment, or someone who's been retired 20 years or less, who's never had a raise in their base retirement benefits, well, inflation starts to take a pretty big hit. And we as an association are working on drawing an even finer conclusion to how much of an impact inflation has had just on the math, just on the numbers themselves. What is the impact of inflation on somebody who's been retired from 1980? And that could be as much as 50% loss in buying power. And so we're working on those details, but it is important, I think, for all of us to know and agree that it is good public policy for our school employee retirees to receive on a relatively regular basis some form of increase to help offset inflation. And the longer that we go without an increase in those retirement benefits that permanently raises them up, the more impact the inflation is going to have. And so I don't know another way to say it other than we have been, as a group, beat up by inflation, tremendously affected by it. And so even if there are other strategies that can be utilized and employed to help retirees, it really is vital that we start considering this session any way that we can pass a raise for retirees and help them offset inflation. And in fact, TRTA is tracking, I think, anywhere between 15 or more legislative bills filed that would help retirees with a COLA, a cost of living adjustment, or another benefit enhancement, which we're going to get to in a minute. But a lot of elected officials are saying, yes, we agree, retirees need a COLA. It's time that we figure that out. And listening to the comptroller this week and the questions that were being asked to the comptroller by members of the Appropriations Committee, many people argue, maybe that's the wrong word, believe that the legislature's paying for a cost of living raise for retired school employees is really like an investment. And we're going to get into those numbers in just a second. Matter of fact, Roy, why don't we go ahead and show the slide that talks about the costs of doing a raise? And so this is one of the things that I think is important for our members to know. What the teacher retirement system is letting all of us know about the funding process for a raise for retirees. And if you look at the headline of this slide, in alternatives to finance a one-time 1% cost of living adjustment, the total cost for a 1% COLA, if you were to take all eligible retirees and just say, hey, look, we're going to give you a 1% COLA, the cost of doing that, if you pre-fund it, if the legislature says, hey, we're going to write a check for that COLA, we're going to give it to TRS, TRS is going to take that money, they're going to apply it to their investment strategy, and that seed money will be used to pay for the cost of that permanent increase in retirement benefits for those retirees over a period of time. That cost is $1.1 billion. That is that lump sum September 1st, 2023 number that's subject to some change depending on what the February 28th valuation looks like. But that's the sort of headline number. And what TRS is reporting to us is that for every additional percent you want to go up, you basically just add another $1 billion. So if the number is a 3% raise, 5% raise, it's $3 billion or $5 billion. That's what TRS is saying. Hey, if you all want to pay for it upfront and not have it affect the overall financial condition of the retirement system, transfer those dollars into the trust fund. These retirees will get that raise, whatever that percentage is, and it'll be paid for over time. So there are some other options on here that provide some potential paths for the legislature, such as a funding schedule over 12-year payments or a pay-as-you-go option, the 25-year payment schedule, or just financing it through the trust fund. Those things are options, and the legislature may consider those. Roy, you can come back to me. But I think most people are saying, hey, look, we have done so much work together to get this trust fund to be solvent and sound and well-funded and able to provide those benefits. Our objective may be that if we have the money, and Texas clearly has some extra money right now, they could simply move some of those dollars. I say simply, please don't misunderstand me. They could apply some of those dollars to the trust fund and say, whatever that amount is, that's the kind of raise we want to give retirees. There are many hundreds of thousands of retirees. And, there are, and I had this chart pulled up, and, for the sake of conversation, I don't know that I'm going to get into it all right now. But if you break out, the total number of retirees, by year, you can start saying, well, some of our retirees who've been retired a long time, they retired on very different wages than what people are retiring on today. And their total take-home pay is much smaller than what maybe a retiree who's retired in the last couple of years. And they have had many more years of inflation pressure eating away at their retirement benefits over that long period of time. And so there are options for the legislature to use a COLA strategy that isn't just as simple as saying, well, everybody's going to get a 2% raise or a 5% raise capped at $20 or $200 or $100, whatever. So the legislature has endless options that it could consider in providing a cost of living adjustment to retirees. And we're helping them consider those options. One of the things that I always like to think about is however much money the COLA may cost. Again, cost could also be framed as investment in our retirees. So many of those dollars are returned back to the state through taxes and economic stimulus, both direct and indirect economic stimulus throughout the state of Texas. And if you want to know more about that specifically, I want to encourage you to be at our TRTA Day at the Capitol event. This is a 2-day event that we are hosting in April. April 12th is the actual day at the Capitol. And April 11th, we are having a very special guest coming to speak with us. And I think I'm okay to tell you who that guest is, but I'm going to save that for next week because some of you might be getting your news bulletins from TRTA right now, and there's going to be some information in there about that. So I'm going to hold that one as a potential secret, but I'm going to tell you all right now, if you're able to be in Austin, if you live in the Austin area, if you want to come and participate in our event on April 11th, you will not want to miss the special guest speaker that TRTA has coming to talk to our attendees on April 11th. If you can only come for the 12th, great. We'd love to have you. We want to have 2,000-3,000 people there on April 12th. But if you're coming and you're able to be there for the April 11th event, you will not want to miss our special guest speaker, who is probably going to talk about the economic activity that is really promoted through TRS by our retirees for the state of Texas. And a cost of living adjustment helping those retirees is only going to increase that. And over time, y'all are going to generate enough economic stimulus in the state that you're going to pay for whatever the state had to invest in this cost of living adjustment anyway. And so these are all important facts that I hope you will have a chance to learn more about come April 11th, and as we talk about them throughout session. All right, so I've already messed up my show slides because I didn't use the slide about the COLA. Roy, just because it was a fun slide, go ahead and put that one on the screen because we had talked about the COLA. This basically just says that a cost of living adjustment is applied to the retiree's base benefit, and once it's there, it's not taken away. So you can all start counting on that and adding it to your budget and saying, "Hey, look, I need that to help pay for goods and services," and so it's always going to be there. All right. So the other idea that gets a lot of discussion in the legislative session, as I've already mentioned, is the idea of a 13th check. Roy, let's put the slide up about the 13th check. Most people would agree that a 13th check is different from a supplemental payment, which we're going to talk about right after this, in that a 13th check would guarantee a TRS retiree to receive one additional payment equivalent to their monthly annuity with no cap imposed on the amount of the check. And so oftentimes we talk about a 13th check strategy. And one of the things that I often hear is, well, it really wasn't a 13th check because there was a cap on it for, in 2019, the cap was $2,000. In 2021, the cap was $2,400. In 2007, which was the first year that a 13th check or a supplemental check was ever paid to TRS retirees, was paid in 2008. It was passed in 2007. It was also a $2,400 cap. Anytime you put a cap on it, well, there are a lot of folks who may not get a full 13th check. But when we talk about a 13th check at TRTA, we mean an uncapped full amount of pay. If it's capped, TRTA refers to that payment as, Roy, a supplemental check or a supplemental payment. So for TRS retirees, a supplemental payment is an additional income in the form of a one-time check equivalent to a person's annuity, unless they hit a cap that may be imposed by the legislative authority, such as $2,400. So, in the nomenclature world, we are focused on a cost of living raise, and to just look at the impact of a COLA, versus a 13th check. There are a lot of pros and cons to both. A 13th check or a supplemental payment is one of those options that provides a retiree with a lot of money up front. It is a way to put in retirees' bank accounts the full value of several years worth of cost of living adjustment dollars into that bank account all at once. And that's an effective strategy when you have retirees who've, again, gone for a long period of time without having an adjustment. And the objective is to put money in their bank accounts. How can we get them the most money right away? Let's do a 13th check or a supplemental payment. It's a one-time check for the legislature. Another advantage, of course, is cost. The cost of a supplemental check is a considerable amount of money. The legislature, over the last two biennia, have fully funded the cost of those supplemental payments, which are well over $700 million in 2021. It was well over, I think, almost $600 million in 2019. And so the legislature invests those dollars and says, hey, look, we're going to pay for that. We're going to get that money in your pocketbooks right away. It's equivalent to several years worth of getting a cost of living raise all at one time. And it's not the cost equivalent of budget wise of doing something like a cost of living raise, because the cost of living raise actually costs multiples of that more. The downside, of course, of a supplemental check is that if you can't have an expectation of receiving those year after year after year, and you have to look at a supplemental check as a benefit that is going to have to be stretched out over the long period of time, well, you can start putting some math to that pretty easily and saying, hey, look, the average age of a TRS retiree today is around 72 years of age. And we'll use the Social Security numbers just because they're out there. And if the Social Security numbers say, hey, look, we believe that a 72-year-old has a life expectancy of 17 or 18 more years, and we can calculate all of these different numbers, we think that that COLA or that supplemental check may have the equivalent impact of X amount of percent of a cost of living raise. And so you can calculate that. And that's where we, as an organization, really start impressing upon our friends in the legislature that to really be able to have the impactful difference against inflation that retirees are hoping to see when the budget dollars are there, the pension trust fund is actuarially sound, and it's been many years that retirees have seen a raise of any kind. All of those things are happening right now. You got budget dollars, you got retirees that haven't had a substantial increase in their retirement benefits for a long period of time. And the pension trust fund right now is actuarially sound. So if we can agree that with those stars aligned, that we want to make a longer, more impactful difference for our retirees, the focus should be a cost of living raise. And that's, again, the direction that we are trying to move this discussion in, so that it will be the most help for retirees. Is it more help than a supplemental check or a 13th check all at once? No. A 13th check or a supplemental payment would absolutely put more money in your bank account right now. But it's the over time, that 13th check or that supplemental payment, according to our members, it only lasted a few months because many of our retirees have built up expenses and had to pay off a medical bill. They had to pay off a car repair. They had to use it to pay off a debt that was incurred. You got a lot of our retiree members that are paying significantly higher rent costs. Those dollars are gone. And so, again, if we can't count on it every year, it's really tough to say that we can build a budget around being able to afford going to the grocery store just on that alone. And so we do believe the legislature is listening, and they are understanding that now could be that unique opportunity for us to do that COLA. And we have all session to work through this process and talk about the value of the COLA, as well as the value of doing a 13th check or a supplemental. It really comes down to this: how much money will the legislature be able to or willing to invest in TRS to make that benefit enhancement possible? And that process is going to take some time. And so, again, I want to impress upon all of you that we need to continue to build our relationships in the legislature and keep those legislator members focused on what is important to y'all and important to us as an organization. Okay, I just looked at the clock. I'm 41 minutes into this, and I tried to make this a little bit shorter. This hardly ever happens. You all are a great audience. You're such excellent listeners. We're going to keep doing this every Thursday and updating folks. And as we get further along into this process, I'm sorry, I looked over one of my comments, and I see one of my comments from a TRS retiree who says, "My husband's in a nursing home. It takes everything." And I tell you right now, that moves me. There's a reason that we all do this job. My reason for wanting to do this job is so that I can help all of our members who life has thrown them a curveball and who worked in our schools and served this state and educated our kids and sacrificed their mornings, their lunch hours, their evenings at home with their own families. They went to all the sports games. They worked with all the kids. They did all the science projects. They did all the help they could do to be the very best for our kids, for our state, for our families and our communities. And now they're asking, almost pleading with the legislature, open up the pocketbook. We need more this time. All of the work that has been done has been amazing in the last few sessions. We know, Texas legislators, your heart, it's in the right place. We know you're looking for ways to help us. We need more help. There are people desperate to get a raise this time. This organization is committed to wanting to help with that process. We support you as our decision makers. We want to work with you. These folks over here that are talking to me, they really need the help. And y'all, I was going to give some comments about building those relationships. I'll talk about that next week. Look through these comments. You all are amazing advocates. Let's stay the course. Let's continue to talk about why the COLA is so necessary. We're not going to attack anybody's ideas. We're not going to throw people under the bus. We're going to be positive about our agenda. We're going to work for what we believe in. We're going to work our issue. And at the end of this, whatever that end result is going to be, I know that all of us will put in all of our effort in the best possible way to try to help. And y'all are amazing. Legislators, those of you who work in legislative offices, I know you're watching this. You guys are doing a great job. All of your staff that are working on this, thank you. Thank you for your help. Thank you for watching these videos. Thank you for taking the phone calls and the emails from our retirees. Let's continue to work together. We got a lot of time left on the clock. We can do it. Y'all have a great day. And we look forward to talking to you next week as we start seeing more of our committee work unfolding. And we'll update you again in a week. Y'all have a great Thursday. Take care.